and welcome back to Leadership Trailblazers. I want to give you something to think about. The last time you were in a performance review or having a conversation about your development, how much of it was focused around your weaknesses, your gaps, what needed fixing, and how much of it was about your strengths? I would put money on the fact that a lot of that would be about your gaps and how to fix them. We've forgotten the strengths sometimes. We sometimes get so caught up in what we're not very good at that we forget what we're actually brilliant at. And today, I want to talk to you about the power of leading from strength. I'm Lois Burton, executive coach and senior leadership team coach, and I've got 25 years of experience of working with senior leaders. So let's think about this business of leading from your strengths. The Gallup Clifton Strengths Indicator is one of the most popular instruments today for leaders and leadership teams to complete. And this is about how people use their strengths daily. Because if we're working from strength and we feel good about it, we are 6 times more likely to be engaged. When we focus almost exclusively on fixing weaknesses, what we tend to get are incremental gains that can be very draining. And those marginal gains come at a high cost to both confidence and energy. And the neuroscience behind this is about the fact that when we're focusing on our strengths, we're in what's called flow state. And that is when our dopamine is high, and then we get better because we feel good. So this becomes a virtuous circle. So the weakness trap is not about ignoring weaknesses. I do want to make that clear. So it's not about saying there isn't anything that I might need to fix. There isn't anything that I might need to develop. There will be key things that you do need to develop. But what I'd like you to think about is shifting to much more of a balance so that you actually do focus on strengths as well as weaknesses. I do quite a lot of work when people complete 360s. And I don't know if you've ever had a 360 feedback, but there's usually a bit at the end where it asks people to say what your strengths are and then asks people to say what your areas for development are. I have to really force people to look at the strengths and to take them in because everybody just wants to go straight to what am I not very good at? And what are people saying that's critical? Because they actually think that's the most important part. It is an important part, but it's not the most important part. Knowing our strengths, owning our strengths is just, if not more important. Because when we lead from strength, we lead from what we're genuinely good at. And therefore, we're going to be able to create much more engagement and much, much more energy around what we're doing. Let me tell you about David. David was somebody that I was coaching in financial services. He was a great strategist, but he'd been chasing detail for years because people kept saying to him, David, you need to get more detailed. When we started coaching, he had a big light bulb moment where he actually thought, maybe this isn't about me becoming more detailed. Maybe this is just about me making sure that the detail gets covered. And that is a very different question. And so what he did, he didn't kind of dismiss detail. He didn't say, I don't need to know any of it. He asked himself, how much do I need to know? And how much can other people cover for me? And it released something in his team. It allowed some of the people in his team who were really good at this stuff to help him and to feel good about helping him because they were leading from their strength. And it also allowed David then to put his energy back into strategy and to engaging with people and to engaging them with the strategy because that was what he was brilliant at. So ask the right question. Which of those gaps or weaknesses or areas for development are really important and do you need to pay attention to? And which of them can you build complementary strengths around you from your team? Tip 1, know your strengths precisely. When we talked about the imposter phenomenon in a previous episode, we talked about filling the vacuum. The imposter thrives within a vacuum. And it's the same with focusing on our weaknesses. If we don't know our strengths precisely because we've been so focused on what we're not very good at, then it isn't going to be easy to lead from them because we don't really pay attention to them. So what you need to do is to build an evidence base around this. So think about, what am I really good at? And again, specifically, not just, oh, I'm quite good with people, I'm good at building relationships. How many relationships, key relationships, have you developed, and what impact has that had? Do one of the strengths indicators. As I say, the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Indicator is probably the most well-known, and it's an excellent instrument. There is also the VIA survey, and that's free. And so you can just download that online and complete that. But some of these strengths indicators actually help you to identify what those strengths are. So I would encourage you to go and take one of those surveys and think about, what do people come to me for? What do people thank me for? What are the things that come so naturally that it doesn't feel like work when I'm engaged in those activities? Because that's giving you a really strong indicator of your strengths. And as I said, just caveating again, don't ignore your weaknesses, but think very carefully about getting that balance in place. Also, as a leader, think about, where's the gap in terms of the amount of time that you spend leading from your strengths and getting involved in activities that you are strong on, and what's the percentage of time that you spend doing stuff that you're not very good at and not very keen on. And if there is a disproportionate amount of time on weaknesses, then you need to shift that. You need to really start thinking about, how can I lead from my strengths? How can I do more of that and spend more time on that? One of the leaders that I coached for a number of years, she was brilliant at this. She knew what she was really good at, and she made real effort to put people in place around her who could cover for the things that she wasn't as good at. Because we're not all good at everything. And so it really is important to know what our strengths are. Tip 2, lead from the front with your strengths. Bring your signature strengths into your leadership style, and do that visibly and do it unapologetically, because then your team and the people around you, they'll start to feel that they've got permission to lead from their strengths as well. If you're a great relationship builder, make relationship building a strategic priority, not a nice to have, because it is something that you're really good at, and it is a very important leadership activity. With some of my guests, we've been talking very much about the importance of connection, about the importance of being a relatable leader. And so see relationship building, it's something you're good at, and it's really important. I worked with the CEO in the creative industries, and she was a fabulous storyteller. But again, in her previous career, she'd been told, be a bit more data-driven. You're not giving us enough facts. Be a bit more boardroom. So she started toning herself down. And actually, that was completely the wrong thing to do, because that was her strength. Storytelling and being a brilliant storyteller helped to inspire people, helped to create an environment in which others felt inspired. And she could always get the data from somebody else if she needed it. So stop trying to be a generic leader. Start being a more powerful version of yourself. Third tip, I've referred to this earlier, build complementary strengths around you. The best leadership teams are not made up of identical leaders. They're made up of people who have different and complementary strengths. And those are the teams that actually can soar into high performance very easily, as long as those strengths are maximized. Just ask yourself one question as a leader. If someone has different strengths from me, do I genuinely value those strengths? Or do I sometimes fall into the trap of wanting them to be like me? And, that's not coming from a bad place, but do ask yourself that question. It's an important one, because your team with different strengths won't thrive if you only value people who are like you. And sometimes that there's a subtle shift towards that leaders fall into. Have the conversations with people. what do each of us do best? Sometimes when I work with teams, that's one of the activities we engage in. Who does this well and who does that well? And what do each of us do best? And how can we then complement one another and support one another? Just hiring clones of yourself is a failure of self-awareness, and it's a route to a failing team. So, in closing, you got here because of your strengths. Go further by leading from them. Remember, know your strengths with precision, lead from the front with your strengths, and build complementary skills around you in your team. If this episode has resonated with you, then I'd love for you to come and find me at loisburtononline.com or on LinkedIn and tell me about where you lead from your strengths. And if you know a leader who you think would benefit from this, please share it. Thank you again for being here. This is Leadership Trailblazers, and remember, the way we led yesterday won't lead us into tomorrow. Thank you.